Bahamians everywhere, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I want to provide the country and the media an update of our comprehensive and full government response to the health, social, and economic challenges posed by the COVID-19 virus. This is also a follow-up to a number of matters from my national address last Monday. I am joined at this afternoon's press conference by the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Paul Roll, the Acting Financial Secretary, Marlon Johnson, my Special Advisor on COVID-19, Dr. Mercelyn Dahl-Regis, and our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Pearl Macmillan. As Dr. Dahl-Regis indicated this past Thursday, the data shows that the measures that we have implemented are working. We are not seeing the numbers that we originally projected, but this means that we must continue the measures that are working. If we become complacent and too relaxed, the number of those affected can go up considerably. Physicians always tell patients to take their full course of medication. We have to continue to follow the advice of the health professionals. We are trying to balance these essential and necessary health measures with what can be done to carefully reopen some areas of the economy. Our main priorities at all times must be to save and protect lives. This is an ongoing process that will take time. We will have to make adjustments as we proceed. We are carefully monitoring what other countries and jurisdictions are doing. We continue to be open to your suggestions and your ideas. The suggestions and questions section at opm.gov.bs is now up and running. A number of suggestions have already been received. Let me give you a number of updates from health officials. To date, there are 60 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas, 51 in New Providence, 7 in Grand Bahama, 1 in Bimini, and 1 in Cat Key. This includes 2 confirmed cases earlier this morning. The Ministry of Health will provide more detailed information in its regular updates. Starting early this week, health officials will expand sampling using current RT-PCR capacity. This is being done utilizing physicians, nurses, and medical technologists to go out in the community. Those targeted for testing include contacts of confirmed cases, especially those with symptoms, healthcare personnel nearing the end of their quarantine period, nursing and home care personnel, and individuals calling onto the hotline reporting concerning symptoms. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind all Bahamians and residents that the 24-hour curfew will go back into effect tomorrow, Monday, the 20th of April at 5 a.m. until Friday, the 24th of April at 9 p.m. On Friday at 9 p.m., the weekend lockdown will again take effect. The 24-hour curfew is not a time to go out to socialize or to go out visiting friends. It is not a time for joyride. The Royal Bahamas Police Force, under its leadership of Mr. Paul Rule, will continue to enforce the curfew. Unless you are exempted under the Emergency Powers Order, you may only leave your home for essential purposes, such as purchasing groceries, food, gas, pharmaceuticals, and other essential items, or in the event of an emergency. I know you have heard this over and over. But if you must go out, you must practice physical distancing of at least 6 feet. You must wear a protective mask at all times. And please, wash your hands often and thoroughly for at least 20 seconds, or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Employers must provide their employees who are serving the general public with masks and appropriate protective equipment and measures. If not, the employer could face a fine. Let me repeat. Employers will face fines if their employees serving the public are not wearing a facial mask. Store owners may also be fined for allowing customers to enter their establishments without a protective face covering. If you do not have a mask, use a scarf, a t-shirt, a cotton cloth that covers the mouth and the nostril. I am alarmed by the number of people out on the road during the 24-hour curfew this past week. In some areas, it was hard to tell that the country was under curfew at all. The longer it takes to stop the spread of COVID-19, the longer it will take to end the curfews and lockdowns and fully reopen our economy. The decision as to when to reopen parts of the economy and to get people back to work rest in your hands. That is your decision. Each and every individual Bahamian has his and her responsibility. It rests in your hands, and it rests in my hands. Our collective action will help to determine a number of timelines. This is not the time to go for a drive or an unnecessary trip to the grocery store. This is the time to stay at home. The emergency powers orders will be strictly enforced by the police. And this includes the curfew and lockdown measures and operating hours of exempted businesses. To help identify essential workers, every Bahamian and resident will be required to carry valid government-issued ID when in public. And this may include a passport, national insurance card, driver's license, or a voter's card. Employers of essential workers should register employees with the Royal Bahamas Police Force at 311. If you are found in violation of the order, you will be fined. Let me repeat. If you are found in violation of this order, you will be fined. An ID must accompany you at all times. Those who are out just riding about with no reason should expect even greater enforcement. Let me also say to those who believe that they can use this emergency for criminal purposes, that there is enhanced surveillance by officers and through the use of various technologies. We will not, under any circumstances, tolerate gang activity, or those who believe that they can drive around in groups to target others. The police force is on high alert. The Royal Bahamas Police Force notes as one of their crime tips that members of the public who see suspicious activity should take a picture of suspect vehicles and individuals and report such information to the force. And I can reassure you tonight that that information is strictly and will be strictly confidential. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to announce that the government has decided to continue the shopping schedule implemented last week. The general public may food shop from Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. The first 2 hours are reserved for senior citizens and persons with disabilities. Seniors and persons with disabilities may, of course, shop at any time during these hours. Saturdays from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. are reserved for essential workers. However, essential workers may also shop during the regular shopping hours, Monday through Friday. The farmers market on Gladstone Road will be allowed to operate on Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. for essential workers only. Yesterday, I went to the food store to do my shopping with my mask on. A security guard asked me for my ID. I applaud him and all the other security personnel and workers who are doing their job under difficult circumstances. Thankfully, he allowed me in after he decided that I was an essential worker. Ladies and gentlemen, as I forecasted last Sunday, a Food Security Committee and coordinator have been asked to serve. Once the Cabinet has reviewed the recommendations of the members, the committee and coordinator will be announced this week. I met with members of the proposed committee last week to discuss what we need to do to make sure that Bahamians and residents throughout our country have adequate food and healthy food. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Finance has been coordinating with the National Insurance Board, the Small Business Development Center, and the Department of Inland Revenue to make sure that money is getting into the hands of thousands of Bahamians in need. Unemployed workers and closed businesses can benefit from the assistance that the economic stimulus measures has set in motion. NIB has 2 programs from which affected individuals can receive financial assistance. The first is their standard unemployment benefit for workers who contribute to the insurance scheme. And the second is a government-sponsored unemployment assistance program for self-employed individuals, a category of persons who are not normally able to receive unemployment assistance from NIB. As of Friday, April 17th, NIB processed over 14,600 unemployment claims. NIB has paid out approximately $7 million in unemployment benefits so far in April 2020 this year. NIB is currently working on an additional 5,000 applicants. This, however, does not include everyone yet. Payments are still being processed for many additional workers across different employment categories. I can assure you that NIB is using innovative approaches, including working with employers to help speed up the process. And last week, NIB had to appeal to some employers, both large and small, to comply with document requests, as this is causing some delay in payments to eligible workers. However, to date, NIB has received a positive response from companies, which is helping to move many more payments along. It is important to point out that not everyone is eligible for NIB benefit payments. NIB is an insurance scheme, and the normal rules associated with benefit payments apply. In light of this, NIB is also administering the government's special unemployment assistance program for self-employed workers. This is giving thousands of Bahamians who ordinarily are not able to claim benefits paycheck support for an 8-week period. As of Friday, April 17th, NIB processed 5,592 self-employed applications. 3,400 have been approved. NIB has paid out $1.96 million so far, and taken together, in just a few weeks, NIB has processed and approved more than 18,000 applications and paid out just under $9 million. I must commend NIB for how quickly they are able to shift operations online and for their use of cashless forms of payments. This means Bahamians do not need to stand in line to receive their money. They also do not need to have a bank account. Even if they do not have a bank account, you can receive money on your cell phone from NIB through its digital partner and use your cell phone to either redeem cash or spend the digital vouchers at grocery stores and other businesses to pay for your items. NIB is partnering with innovative Bahamian technology companies that are making mobile wallets available to every Bahamian. The Ministry of Finance has also allocated some $25 million to help small businesses with payment support. the Small Business Development Center, is the vehicle through which this assistance is being processed. As of Friday, November 17th, 111 companies were approved for financing, and this represents $7.4 million. So far, 601 businesses have completed applications. These businesses represent over 3,500 full-time and part-time employees. The government is also contributing some $30 million in direct grants to allow payment of salaries of up to 5,000 employees over the 3-month period. This is being provided for under a tax credit and deferral program that is currently underway. Taken together, the tax credits or grants and the tax deferrals are providing $60 million in funding to medium and large business. The Department of Inland Revenue is administering this program and is currently accepting online applications from eligible businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, I have convened an Economic Recovery Committee. The committee will advise the government on the safe and gradual reopening of the economy in the immediate term. They will also propose a medium to long-term strategy to restore the economy of the Bahamas. The chairs and members of the committee will be announced this week after the Cabinet reviews the recommendations. Committee members will represent a range of sectors. They will consult widely with the private sector for ideas, projects, and programs. We will have to think boldly and creatively to boost jobs and economic activity, especially in terms of domestic production, tourism, construction, and local and foreign investment. During a meeting with the proposed members of the Economic Advisory Group, we discussed a number of issues: e-commerce, diversifying the economy, accelerating foreign direct investment projects, restoring the macroeconomy, and tourism. The Bahamas entered the COVID-19 pandemic with adequate foreign reserves to cover essential imports and to preserve the parity of the Bahamian dollar against the US dollar. The central bank is working closely with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that fiscal stabilization policies are balanced with adequate additional access to foreign currency through the borrowings which the government must undertake. Such stabilization policies uphold domestic spending on essential needs, some of which must be satisfied through imports. Alongside the financing that can be obtained locally, the government will have to rely on some foreign currency borrowing to cover its revenue shortfall. Taking this active financing strategy into account, along with other foreign exchange market strategies that the central bank is pursuing, it is expected that the drawdown in foreign reserves will reach about $1 billion in 2021. This from a present healthy level of approximately $2 billion. The central bank expects that after 2020, net inflows of foreign currency through the private sector will begin to improve. This will permit a very gradual recovery in external reserves, provided the deficit financing strategy maintains a prudent balance between Bahamian dollar and foreign currency borrowing. As our tourism sector may not be fully restored for some time, the economy will also have to aggressively attract other sources of foreign exchange. Priority will be given to expediting processes of foreign investment proposals that could generate such inflows and stimulate construction activity. We will consider a streamlined approach for reviewing lower value applications that now go to the National Economic Council for approval. With fuel cost being the largest single item in the import bill, a focus must be sustained on ensuring that BPL can lock in significant savings from the current external environment of low oil prices as seen today. In the near term, the government will encourage, where possible, import substitution through local production. And this may include, for example, but not limited to items like hand sanitizer, disinfectants, non-medical grade masks, and related health care products. We will promote fast-growing agricultural produce and an increase in fisheries for local consumption. Let me now advise you of a number of immediate measures. As a part of the gradual and safe reopening of the economy, and based on the advice of health experts, construction on family islands will be allowed to resume. I want to remind construction workers that face masks are mandatory. Also, on our family islands, hardware, lumber, plumbing, and electrical stores that cater to construction will be allowed to open Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Let me restate that family island borders remain closed to international and to domestic air and marine transport from other islands. In New Providence, the following businesses will be allowed to operate effective tomorrow, Monday, the 20th of April. Auto parts stores will be allowed to operate on Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Hardware and home stores will be allowed to operate on Wednesday and Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Plant nurseries will be allowed to operate on Mondays and Thursdays from 6 a.m. to 12 noon. Landscaping and property maintenance will now fall under essential businesses and will be allowed to operate during the 24-hour curfew Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. As with other businesses, physical distancing must be adhered to at all times, and individuals must wear a mask while out in public. The owners of these businesses must abide by the strict guidelines in the emergency orders. We also want to encourage exempted businesses who have not already done so to request permission from the competent authority to begin delivery services. I want to make a very strong plea to business owners who are in strong financial positions to do so, to hold off from laying off employees for as long as possible. Such generosity of spirit will make a tremendous difference at this time. In the past few weeks, I have been pleased to see an increase in delivery operations and the employment opportunities that they are creating. I encourage Bahamians to seize this opportunity to start a delivery business of their own. Our plan is to gradually begin to reopen the economy based on the data collected by health officials and their professional advice. But the pace of reopening of the economy will also depend on the cooperation and the discipline of the public in following the health guidelines. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all Bahamians and residents who have listened to the public health advice and followed the emergency orders. By staying home as much as possible, by remaining physically distant from others, you have saved lives. You lessened the spread of this virus. Keep doing what you are doing. This virus has killed more than 150,000 individuals around the world. Everyone in our Commonwealth should take it seriously. However, we still have a group who will not listen. And we say repeatedly, hard head don't make good soup. Each time we allow an opening to assist people with returning to some semblance of normalcy, some take advantage of this. We do not want our health system overwhelmed with sick and dying people. If you are careless or reckless about your own life, consider the lives of the people around you. Consider the lives of your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your nieces, your aunts, and your friends. Let us all stay home as much as possible. We can beat this faster if we all listen and comply with the rules. And the faster we beat this, the quicker we can return to normal life, and the quicker our economy can return. There is a quote from the late Steve Jobs, which I want to share. Just before he died, Jobs said, "There is a big difference between human being and being humane. We are all human beings, but we must all work at being human and humane. To be humane, we must care about others. To be human is to be kind, to be generous, to be considerate of each other, especially in times such as this. Let us all be more humane and human by helping to protect each other. I am extremely disappointed when I see Bahamian companies laying off individuals who had worked with them 10, 20 years, who had made them wealthy, who had given them the opportunity to send their children to university, both here and abroad, who have given them opportunities for their children to become professionals and leaders in this country, who have given them opportunity to live in lavish homes and have great lives, individuals, Bahamians, who are from humble beginnings, but who have made sacrifices to make fellow Bahamians wealthy and living good. And yet, after all the sacrifices these Bahamians did, those who have attained wealth have laid off such Bahamians. I ask you, are you humane? Where is your heart? Where is your compassion? Do you have a soul? Please, let's be humane and consider those individuals who have made great sacrifices to make you what you are today. But as soon as things get tough, you want to retain and hold on to all you've got and continue to take advantage of individuals. I plead and I ask all Bahamians today, let us not be human beings, but let us be humane. I ask you, where is your heart? Or do you have a heart? I wish to end on a personal note. I want to thank the many, many Bahamians who offered me birthday greetings last week. Thank you so much. Your prayers and your best wishes sustain me every hour of every day. I thank you, and may God continue to bless each and every one of us. And God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you very much. I now open for questions from members of the media.
Theo Seeley from Eyewitness News. My first question is for healthcare professionals. The Prime Minister just noted that the pace of reopening the economy is based on the cooperation of residents. We know in the last press briefing that we received, some persons who were to be on self-isolation or self-quarantine were not adhering to those regulations. What is government's position now in terms of the introduction of those electronic monitoring bracelets, as well as what is the current update on manpower in the healthcare system, as some healthcare professionals have been compromised due to the virus? Is there a shortage of manpower at PMH currently?
Thank you very much, Celia. That seems like 4 questions in one. But Dr. Regis?
Good afternoon, and thank you for reminding us what our challenges are with maintaining the large numbers of persons who are in isolation and who are not compliant. We wrestle with this, and we haven't come up with a good solution yet. We are still exploring several things, not only the electronic bracelets. We're looking at some GIS monitoring. we're looking to the telecommunications grouping. We're looking at some apps, but we have not come up with a solution yet. And we're working feverishly to identify what might be the best option that doesn't violate one's confidentiality in terms of the personal confidentiality, but also protects the public. I'll use this opportunity to appeal to those who are in isolation. You're there for a reason, so that you do not spread the virus. Be considerate, be compliant. We need you to do this. Again, all I can do is appeal to you as we explore what might be the preferred option for monitoring of those not only in isolation but in quarantine. And you know we have almost 900 people in quarantine. You have other questions?
The number of healthcare professionals are currently at PMH. Are we experiencing a shortage in manpower there?
No, we're not, but we certainly have to make adjustments. We've had a number of volunteers, both in the nursing grouping as well as in the physician grouping, and we're really thankful for those who have stepped forward, because once our healthcare teams are exposed to COVID positive cases, they have to go into quarantine. And that could have created quite a shortage, greater than what we might have been able to manage. But we're really grateful to so many for stepping forward. Is the third question?
Yeah, my second question is for the police commissioner.
Oh.
I know that he's there at the meeting. We saw that just before heading into the weekend shutdown, there was a video circulating with what seemed to be a liquor premises that was operating with a police patrol car in front of that premises. I know that you've launched an investigation into that. Where are we at now in that investigation? And what message are you sending out to residents as officers are found to be in front of non-essential businesses operating?
Yes, good afternoon, Celia. First of all, let me thank the hardworking men and women of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. I received that video and I immediately launched an investigation into that. We have the owner of that premises. He is in my custody and I'll be putting him before the court tomorrow. I've also asked the Deputy Commissioner to look into the allegations pertaining to the involvement of police officers. That is an ongoing matter as well. And I'll come back to the public, as I said in my release, and inform the public of my decision. I think you had another question? Okay.
Theo, that is your two questions. Do we have another question from another member of the press? Jasper, where are you?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's you.
Krishna Russell from the Tribune.
Okay, Krishna, how you doing?
I'm okay. PM, just a little while ago, you announced that we are going back to the 24-hour curfew, while at the same time also announcing that several more businesses are opening. What is the rationale for this? As we've seen week after week, the cases are increasing. And when the weekend lockdowns are complete, everybody seems...
You would note that we've introduced mandatory ID, and the police will be very vigilant. And only those individuals who can show proof or evidence that they are going to work or they have a reason to be on the street would be allowed. Outside of that, those other individuals would be prosecuted. So we would be very, very strict. And for us to advance, we would need the Bahamians' cooperation. Next question.
Okay, has there been any consideration about completely lifting the curfew provisions on the Family Islands where there have been no cases? I know you said that certain businesses are going to be allowed to open, but as far as the curfew is concerned there.
No, you would note that we've been, we're releasing everything gradually. And we do that because we are advised by the health professionals as to the progression forward. We want to ensure that no cases are being introduced or no cases are being discovered. And therefore, we're being very vigilant and gradually opening up the family islands with all precaution. Altamis.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon.
I want to piggyback on Krishna's question, sir. With the opening of the businesses this week, does that mean they are only open for essential workers, or are they open for the public that they must show their ID when they're going to these additional businesses that have been opened this week?
They're open to the public, and the public must show their IDs. Police can stop them at any given time. And yes, there will be some unscrupulous individuals who may be on the road with an ID, but they may not necessarily have any reason to be on the street, and therefore they would be dealt with appropriately. Next question, Alti.
Sir, with over 756 cases in the U.S. alone, I know that you said that you met with the potential economic committee this week. Will the rebounding of the U.S. economy help in knowing when our economy will be fully bouncing back?
Well, 80% of our employment depends on the U.S. economy, and the sooner the U.S. economy rebounds, it'll be better for the Bahamas. But what this has demonstrated, the Bahamas must move towards some degree of self-sufficiency, and we must explode or increase our agricultural production, increase our fisheries, and local manufacturing here, as is being done by some companies already. I think one company has already gotten into the sanitizing business, and we will protect and ensure that our local companies continue to grow. Jasper? Sloan?
Calling.
Jerome, yes.
Okay, my time. Good afternoon, sir. My question has to do with borders, and in two parts. A lot of family islanders are expressing concern that tourists, non-Bahamians, are still coming in to the Bahamas on sailboats and on other boats. Also, there is this ongoing debate about Bahamians stuck abroad, those who were there or whatever, for whatever reason, and cannot get back home. And there's also discussion about criminals being sent back home. Can you give first of all, the position on the borders relative to the family islands, people who are coming in by boats, etc. What's being done to address those issues on the islands, and what should residents do? And secondly, can you state again for us the position on Bahamians stuck abroad, whether by their own doing or those who may be incarcerated, who may now be being sent home by foreign governments?
You had a third one in that same question.
Well, that's two parts, that's to do with borders.
With respect to the borders, the Defense Force is manning our entire borders from north to south. Obviously, there will be some vessels that would come in, but in spite of that, the Bahamians, those on the given islands, are being very vigilant themselves, and if individuals require fuel, food, etc., they would assist, however, take all the necessary precaution to avoid any type of COVID infection. With respect to those Bahamians who are abroad, we were trying to make provisions to bring those individuals home. I'm sure you would have listened to Dr. Mercelyn Dahl-Regis when she mentioned that we have almost 900 individuals in some form of quarantine. The challenges we face, some of those individuals are not taking the matter serious and going out into communities, etc. If we were to bring such individuals home at this particular time, we would have to find a specific location for a complete quarantine without allowing them to move about for at least 14 days. So to answer to your question, at this point in time, we cannot accommodate those individuals. So we have advised them repeatedly that they should listen to the health professionals in that particular jurisdiction and follow the advice and the recommendations given by the health professionals. Your other questions, Jerome?
Expanded sampling, sir. You mentioned in your presentation that healthcare professionals will be expanding the sampling pool starting this week. If at all possible, can you give us some more details on how this will be done? And also, what is the turnaround time? For instance, if you're going to be sampling, when can individuals expect to get a result back? And then what happens immediately after that?
You would have made an excellent teacher, one question with 3 parts. But I would allow the Chief Medical Officer to answer that question, Jerome.
Thank you for your question. Certainly, expansion of testing or sampling would be focused more on key areas, key groupings. We would have spoken about, the long-term care facilities and persons who work in those areas, and the need for us to ensure that we keep those facilities free of COVID. We want to target persons who are potentially working in those facilities, healthcare workers, and also we would have also spoken about correctional facilities and persons moving in and out. We want to, in the first instance, move ahead with wider sampling in those particular groupings. As we move forward with, additional testing capacity, we anticipate being able to widen our testing. As it relates to the time for receipt of results, we usually do it within 24 to 48 hours. In some instances, because we're using the real-time PCR methods, it may, depending on the volume, we can go up to 72 hours. But generally, we have results ready within 24 to 48 hours.
Jasper and Sloan.
Is it my turn now?
Yes, Jasper.
All right. My first question, PM, is you spoke heavily about the fact that, individuals who leave their house during this time will be fined. Why not fine those individuals who are leaving quarantine during this time? I know the Chief Medical Officer would have said last week that the Ministry of Health has gotten word that individuals are not sticking to the quarantine. Will a fine be introduced to individuals who violate quarantine?
Yes, individuals who violate quarantine, we will deal with that. Next question.
They will be fined. So they will be fined?
Yes.
Okay, and my second question is just piggybacking on Jerome. You spoke about the borders and the fact that the government was trying to bring back Bahamians during this pandemic, but why are we accepting deportees during this time? Why couldn't we just tell the U.S., hey, we'll take visa sanctions. Right now, we got to worry about our country. Is there not a fear that the individuals who are going to come back as deportees will possibly bring more COVID-19 cases to the Bahamas?
The latest information I had from Foreign Affairs that there were no deportees being sent back at this particular time. Sloan. Thank you. I don't know where Sloan have disappeared. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, thank you very much. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.
Hello?
Yes?
So my first question is for you, Mr. PM, and it relates to something you would have said earlier about how this being a collective effort on the parts of Bahamians. But what about the regional and global efforts in terms of getting our economy back open? Florida has reopened its beaches over the weekend. How does that impact the Bahamas and the reopening of our own borders in the future?
We are being guided by our health professionals, and we are opening up with the greatest degree of precaution to minimize any possibility of a resurge. And it's being done systematically. In addition to that, you would have heard me say just recently that I would have had meeting with all the CARICOM leaders. We would have had conference call, and we would have discussed these matters as to how we should approach as a CARICOM nation moving forward. Next question.
I'm not quite sure I got an answer on the first question.
You got an answer. Florida opened their beach. We will not open our beach. We are guided not by Florida, but we are guided by our own health professionals.
But what does that now mean for our country? We rely on countries like the US, Canada for the majority of our tourism dollars. You know, what does that mean? When the time comes for our borders to open, is there a concern that they will still, you know, be dealing with the virus?
I think the health professionals are also working with medication against the virus, vaccines, etc. But we would make those determinations. To answer your question bluntly, the members of CARICOM were in discussion with the airline industry and the CARICOM community as to protocols moving forward in terms of standard protocols for airlines, protocols for cruise ships, etc. And once that is completed and done and accepted by all individuals, then I don't think that would be a problem moving forward.
My second question would be for health officials. You can also ask again, Mr. PM. We have 60 confirmed cases to date. And of those cases, we would have seen, based on our records, some 2, 3, or 4, I believe, that actually had a history of travel. We've already confirmed that there has been community transmission, but have officials been able to identify the index case here in New Providence?
I would ask Dr. Dalrigis to respond.
Yes. There's one imported case and 4 imported related cases. They occurred early in March. We're now in April. And so the number of cases, we've established linkages. So we know the first case, the index case, and we now have a number of linkages to that case as well as to a number of other cases. And the linkages tell us that there is community spread. But we have identified the first case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the press.